Heavy duty has seldom been something for the commercial gym goer. If you're into loud music, group classes, and unstructured training practices, a big gym with big fees might be up your alley. But I recall Mike telling me that he preferred solitude when training, as he found it more conducive to concentration. Many people have commented on this channel, but I train at home. I don't have access to all the Nautilus machines Mike recommended in his ideal routine. What can I do? This video is for you. Back in 1992, shortly after Dorian Yates had won his first Mr. Olympia title, I called Mike to interview him for a future feature for Flex Magazine UK. After learning about the workouts he put Dorian through, I wanted to know if he had any version of his heavy-duty workout that a person could perform in a home gym without much equipment. Fortunately, he did. In terms of equipment, all that's required is a pair of adjustable dumbbells, an adjustable barbell, parallel dipping bars or 2 sturdy chairs, an overhead pulley with a strong enough cable to support a couple of 100 pounds of weights. Ideally, you should spring for a basic leg extension leg curl device, which is pretty standard with most home gym machines and not that expensive, and a block of wood to elevate your heels for standing calf raises. That's it. The home gym workout. Here is what Mike recommended for the home trainer. Monday, chest, shoulders, triceps. The first exercise will be dumbbell flies, followed immediately by dips, both for 1 set to failure. Rest 1 minute. The second exercise is dumbbell laterals. Again, 1 set taken to a point of failure. The third exercise in the workout is bent over dumbbell laterals for 1 set to failure. Finally, a set of triceps press downs for 1 set to failure. Rest 2 days, then return to the gym on Thursday to train your back, traps, and biceps. The first exercise is close grip pull downs. The second exercise will be barbell rows. Third will be shrugs. And fourth will be either standing barbell or preacher curls, all of these for 1 set to failure. You will then rest 2 days. The next workout falls on Sunday, legs. You will do leg extensions for 1 set to failure, followed immediately by squats, also for 1 set. Leg curls will then be performed for 1 set to failure, and finally standing calf raises for 2 sets to failure. Rest 2 days, and then repeat the cycle. Exercise performance. The following advice on how to perform the various exercises of the home gym workout are drawn directly from the writings of Mike Mentzer. Dumbbell flies. This is a great exercise for isolating the pecs and preserving the strength of the triceps for the dip exercise, which is to follow immediately. With the dumbbells together over the face, lower to the sides with the elbows pulled back and out to the sides. Lower to a position just below the plane of the torso and no further, or you might injure your shoulder. Keeping the angle and the elbows consistent throughout the raising of the weight back to the top will stress the pecs, preserve the tricep strength, and reduce strain on the connective tissue in the crook of the elbow. It doesn't matter if the weights touch at the top, since at that point there is no resistance to fight against anyway. Dips. Dips between parallel bars is a compound exercise which, when performed immediately after dumbbell flies, will allow your pectorals to continue contracting owing to the involvement of the fresh triceps muscles. It is important that you use relatively narrow hand spacing and keep your elbows pointed out to the sides away from the torso when using dips for the chest. Lower yourself slowly all the way down until your upper arm is at a right angle to your forearm, and raise yourself back up until the elbows lock. Dumbbell laterals. This is by far the best exercise for developing that important lateral head of the deltoid. The only way to broaden the shoulders once you've exited puberty is to develop the lateral head of the delt. This is the only delt exercise where Mike occasionally recommended a slightly looser style of performance. If you don't use a slight thrust in the beginning of this movement, just to get the weight started, you won't be able to employ a weight heavy enough to provide necessary resistance in the top or contracted position of the exercise. Do not, however, use a weight that requires a ridiculously sloppy style. With only a very slight jerk, keep the weight moving with the work of the muscles and hold it at the top level for a distinct pause. If you cannot hold it there, you use momentum instead of muscle to perform the work. From the top, lower slowly and feel the weight all the way back to the starting position. Bent over dumbbell laterals. This exercise can be performed either seated or standing, bent over at the waist. Keep the upper arm straight and raise the weight upwards along a plane that ends with the dumbbells in a line with the head. Pause in the contracted position briefly, and then lower the dumbbells slowly back to the starting position. Triceps press downs. Mike believed that this is one of the most productive triceps exercises you could perform with conventional equipment. Since this exercise causes you to extend the forearms with the upper arms already held into the body, you are working the two functions of the triceps muscle. This double-barreled action is very important in working all three heads of the triceps muscle. Perform this exercise with the hands held close together and the elbows stationary at the sides. Don't allow the elbows to travel away from the torso, or the pecs and lats will come into play. Extend the bar downwards with the body held straight up so that body leverage does not aid in the movement. Lock the elbows firmly at the bottom and pause momentarily before allowing the bar to return slowly to the extended position. Close grip pull-downs. The underhand grip is used here because it places the biceps into their strongest position. Most bodybuilders use the palms down overhead grip, which places the biceps in a weak position, limiting the degree to which you can work your back. Another mistake made by bodybuilders is using the wide grip in the pull-down rather than stretch the lats, which is the logic behind using the wide grip. The wide grip actually reduces the stretch or the range of motion over which the lats contract. Pull the bar from overhead into the chest, hold for a pause, and return slowly to the top. Barbell rows. This exercise really works the upper inner back and should be worked very hard. The actual width of the grip isn't so important here as bringing the bar high into the chest so that the scapulae squeeze together, working all the upper back muscles. Don't use so much weight that you have to whip the bar up. Too much weight in this exercise will place excessive strain on the lower back, so be careful. If you are experiencing lower back problems now, try one-arm dumbbell rows with your free arm supporting your body weight on the end of a bench. Shrugs. Shrugs are the best trap exercise. Keep the arms perfectly straight and shrug the shoulders, trying to touch them to your ears, where you should hold and contract very hard for a second or two before lowering slowly. When shrugging the weight, keep the back straight and shoulders pulled slightly back so that the traps can contract completely. If your back is rounded, the traps cannot be contracted fully. If you don't know how to use wrist straps, I'd advise you to learn soon. Once the weights you handle in this exercise start getting heavy, your grip will give out before you can reach a point of failure. Barbell curls. The regular barbell curl is probably the simplest of the arm exercises to perform, but also one of the most productive. It is easy to slip into a very loose style when doing the regular curl, so be especially cautious here to perform your reps with no sudden jerk or cheat. Keep the elbows stable and tucked in to your sides with the hands held slightly wider. You will notice that the hardest part of the curl is at that point when the forearms are in a position perfectly parallel to the floor. This is the only point in the range of motion where you have direct resistance, because here you will be pulling straight up while the bar is being pulled straight down. It is important that you fight the weight through that point rather than lean back with the body as leverage to help. It is important in all exercises to perform the exercises over a full range of motion. Allow the arms to extend fully at the bottom and curl all the way to the contracted position where the bar touches the collarbone. Preacher curls. This exercise has supplanted the regular barbell curl as the most popular exercise, due largely to its association with Larry Scott, the man many believe to have the most perfectly developed biceps of all time. It can be a very productive exercise for anyone if performed correctly. When doing this exercise, use a bench that has a slope of 90 degrees or perfectly perpendicular to the ground. This will ensure resistance at the top of the curl, which will greatly enhance the stimulation the biceps receive. The elbow should be pulled in as tight as possible, with the hands positioned slightly wider than the elbows, causing the forearms to form a V shape. Allow the arms to extend fully at the bottom of the movement, but be careful not to jerk the weight out of that position. Curl the weight slowly and deliberately from the bottom, pausing momentarily at the top before lowering. Leg extensions. This exercise is very valuable in that it focuses the stress almost entirely on the frontal thigh muscles. This isolation of the muscles we are interested in is important because the strength of adjacent muscle groups like adductors on the inside of the thighs and the buttocks is preserved for the second exercise to follow, squats. By doing the leg extension first, we pre-fatigue the frontal thighs so that when we go immediately to the second exercise, squats, the adjacent muscle groups will have a temporary strength advantage, and the thigh muscles can go to a point of failure without the weaker adjacent muscles giving out first. Contraction control is very important in extensions. Because of the delicacy of the knees, any sudden jerking movement can cause serious injury. The weight should move slowly and deliberately out of the starting position and proceed in like manner to the top. Hold the weight for a brief pause at the top to ensure control, then lower slowly. Squats. Mike once wrote that if he had to choose a favorite exercise, it would be squats. He always noted that his body responded best when his squats were increasing. It is a very taxing exercise, true, but then that is the very thing that makes it so productive. It is possible to injure your knees doing squats, but, according to Mike, in most cases injuries were due to improper warming up and a loose style of performance. Don't descend rapidly to the bottom of a squat and then bounce up. Once you hit parallel and then pass below, the tendons of the knee become hyperextended, a very weakened position. To bounce with a heavy weight from any hyperextended position is very traumatic to the joints and surrounding connective tissues. Mike always took extra time to warm up his knees before getting into squats, with a few lighter sets of moderately high reps. The bar should be situated on the upper traps and neck. Before actually squatting, you should feel stable, which will depend mostly on foot positioning. Adjust your stance until you feel strong and stable. Stare at a spot on the ceiling somewhere in front of you to keep your back straight and prevent rounding, which is dangerous. Leg curls. It is important that you develop the hamstrings along with the rest of the thigh muscles. Football players and athletes who develop great strength in the frontal thighs but neglect the hamstrings usually contract severe hamstring injuries. The frontal thighs generate tremendous force when engaged in explosive efforts such as sprinting or charging out of the backfield. If the hamstrings are weak, they will often tear, as they would be a weak link in the muscular system. Try to keep your pelvis flat on the leg curl machine when doing this exercise. Curl the weight all the way into the buttocks or as close as possible. If you can't curl it close to the buttocks, you are probably using too much weight. When the weight is in the top position, you should be able to hold it there momentarily before lowering slowly. If you can't hold it there, then you didn't raise the weight with muscle alone. Standing calf raises. Stand with your arms at your sides with a fairly heavy dumbbell in each hand. Step onto the wood block, a short piece of 2x4 will do the job, and balance on your toes, letting your heels touch the floor if possible. Keep your body in a straight line and lock your knees. Now raise up on your toes as high as you can. Hold at the top for a count of 2, and slowly lower your heels back to the floor. Balance may be a problem here, so practice without weights if necessary until you get the hang of it. Mike's guidelines. As he laid out the program, Mike emphasized several points. First, he told me that the number of repetitions didn't matter nearly as much as going to failure. 4, 5, or 6 reps were fine. But if a trainee reached 12 or 13 with perfect form, he was to add 10% more weight when that same workout came around in the next rotation. Second, he emphasized that training alone required a degree of caution. With certain lifts, like squats, if a trainee working out alone believes he could grind out one more rep, he shouldn't. Instead, he should hold the resistance statically as long as possible, and then lower it slowly under control. It would be well worth the trainee's investment to get a power rack with safety catches when doing squats. Not only will you no longer have to be limited to using only the amount of weight you can lift to your shoulders, but you can train to a point of muscular failure and total safety, as the support bars will catch the weight from you when you can no longer complete another positive rep. Third, Mike made it clear that more was not better. One set more than the least amount required is overtraining, he said. For him, the formula was simple: 1 set per exercise, no more than 2 sets per muscle group, and each workout should last no more than 15 minutes. As I had read most of Mike's articles on heavy-duty training, I was curious as to how certain techniques, such as forced reps and negatives, which I'd been led to believe were necessary for maximum growth stimulation, could be performed without a training partner. Mike's answer was the same as the one he gave at a seminar several years earlier.
It almost sounds impossible, like with your intensity training, if you were to work on your own, without a partner.
No.
You wouldn't gain.
It's not true. I keep getting that in my seminars. I don't know why. People think they have to have a training partner to train hard. Well, there are certain exercises where you obviously can't do forced reps, perhaps negatives, without a training partner. But the vast majority of exercises, if you use a little innovation, you can devise ways of doing forced reps. For example, in the dips, you stand on a chair, you go into the top position and continue to lower yourself, or use your feet as an aid. If you don't have a training partner and you want to do forced reps for your arms, you do concentration curls using the free hand to assist. If you're doing dumbbell laterals, you want to continue doing negative or forced reps. When you can't do any more positive reps, you curl the weight to here, extend the arms out, and lower slowly under control. Very simple. There's a lot of things you can do. Chinning. Just step up on a chair or on the Nautilus, walk up the steps, go into the top position.
But more importantly, he told me,
but even if you can't do those things, you still train as hard as you can to at least go to positive failure.
Key points of the heavy-duty home workout. 1. Intensity over volume. The idea that 1 set to failure is enough, if it's truly to failure, was a radical concept then, and still is for many lifters today. But Mike's logic was airtight. Once you've stimulated growth, additional work only eats into your recovery. 2. Recovery is the hidden variable. Your muscles don't grow in the gym, they grow after you've recovered, which can take a few days. Mike's scheduling of workouts built recovery into the program so thoroughly that there was no need for complicated cycling or periodization. 3. The mental demands of training to failure. A set to true muscular failure is not comfortable. It's a test of will as much as strength. Even now, this is why so many people end up doing more sets. It's simply easier to avoid going all in on any single one. 4. The value of simplicity. In an era and an industry where programs can become overly complex, the heavy-duty home gym routine stands as proof that clarity and focus beat novelty and volume. If you're someone with limited time, a modest home gym, and the willingness to push yourself, I believe, as Mike did, that you can achieve truly impressive results on just a few short, brutally intense sessions a month.